All right, welcome back to Scale the Next Generation, here for Keila Banks. And before we go off, I'd like to talk about our sponsor, OpenSUSE's Open Build Service. OpenSUSE's Open Build Service offers powerful team and project collaboration features for forking of packages and merge requests. OpenSUSE's Build Service builds DEBs, RPMs, and TGZs for ARMS v5, v7, v8, x86, and more for 28 Linux distributions. Pull code directly from Git, SVN, and build each package in a fresh VM with OpenSUSE's Open Build Service. All right, look into that whenever this talk is over. And I'd like to hand it off to Phil now.
Okay, from one Phil to the other. All right. The next speaker, I've known for a little while. It's my daughter. And she's researched all this, and she's been in open source since she was really young. I can't say young because she's still young. But her talk is on using open source for business and whatever your dreams are, and some things even for every age range. All right? Our next talk, Keila Banks.
Okay. Hi, everybody. My name is Keila Banks. Well, you already know that. But this is my third year at Scale, but technically I've been at Scale since before I even came into this world because my mom was at Scale when I was in her stomach. So today I'm going to be talking to you guys about using open source for business, and I actually learned a lot of stuff while I was researching this, so now I'll just talk to you guys about it. Okay, if you don't know already, open source is a movement or an organization. There's a lot of names for it, but I personally call it a movement because there's a lot of contributors to open source. Some of the biggest ones I know are SourceForge and Linux, which are the biggest projects that are known, like attributed to open source. And open source has been getting way bigger. It was officially a thing. It started in the 90s, and now it's grown into this big thing. When people think open source, they think of like programs like GIMP and Inkscape. But really, open source isn't just computer programs. Open source can be organization or just anything it has the source code open to. A lot of people, well, some people that I know, think that open source, just because it's free and it's open to the public, that it has a lot of bugs. Actually, this is the exact opposite, because since there are so many people contributing to it, it's easier to see the bugs and fix them. There's an open source program alternative to almost every other program that you know. A good website you can find alternatives to is OSALT, and a couple examples are Microsoft Word, and an open source alternative is OpenOffice, and Photoshop, and an open source alternative is GIMP, and there are a lot of different ones. And lastly, open source runs off donations, so you guys can think about donating to them while you're using their products. Now, open source has a lot of pros and cons, mostly pros, but there's still some cons. Some pros are that it has very few or no licensing fees. Most of the time there are no licensing fees, but since there are some, they're just little ones. And open source has improved quality. The reason this is so is because there's so many people contributing to it since it's open source, and there's so many people building upon it, adding their knowledge to it, and making it a better program. Open source can be good for businesses because it's so easy to personalize it and customize it. It's also good because there's so much versatility. There's like, if you think about it, there's only 2 commercial products like Microsoft Office, but if you think about open source, there are thousands or maybe even hundreds of open source alternatives. And another pro is that it has so many community support. Even if there aren't developers, there are a lot of people in the community, like the open source initiative, who contribute to doing it. Another pro is that it fits for most situations and backgrounds. When I say open source is meant for business, it's not just for business. Like my brother, he uses Blender for college, and a lot of kids use it for education and other things. Another pro is that it has faster updates to security leaks and holes, like I said earlier. Some cons to open source is that there's no official support. But if you look at it in a different view, it's kind of better to have community support since there are way more knowledgeable views about it. Another con is that there's not so much game support. And a lot of people say that, yeah, there are a lot of open source games, but then you can't really have that so much support for official games like Half-Life or The Sims 3. But there still are a whole bunch of open source games. Another con, it's not really a con, but you may require you to teach employees how to use these new programs. But this might not be a con since open source programs have a lot of similarities to commercial products. Open source is being recognized more and more. A knowledgeable one that I just found out is ISS, which is the International Space Program. They just adopted Linux into their networking system. Open source is being used in schools, businesses, and organizations worldwide. I remember in 2013, which was when I was in elementary school, we were in the community. we were in the computer lab a lot, and a lot of the kids and the teachers knew me as like the IT girl. And so sometimes if the students didn't have access to a lot of the programs, they kind of asked me, and that's why they use Open Office in their computers. A lot of and more high-profile organizations are making the switch. I'm not going to name specific ones, but just some general ones. Can my friend and client Cassie Betts please stand up? This is me, my dad and I's client, Cassie Betts. Cassie Betts runs her own business and it's called District 2. It's a collaborative online fashion platform that helps link companies that need resources like materials and textiles and helps them get their resources. District 2 helps teens at Saya High School, which is a continuation school, so it helps them get paid and learn more about these kind of things. We help Saya High School and District 2 by incorporating GIMP into their software in their computer so it would be easier and they wouldn't have to pay for Photoshop. Another person I know is Shirley Macy, who goes to my church, New Hope Baptist Church. Instead of using Photoshop for the church bulletins, now she uses GIMP. She used to complain a lot that that Photoshop was really slow and it wasn't as efficient. So we introduced GIMP to her, and now she uses it, and it's way better for her. And it's more efficient. And lastly, my brother Hunter Banks. My brother Hunter Banks, he doesn't own a business yet, but he attends college right now since he has an art major, and he uses Blender, GIMP, and MakeHuman, which are all like art programs. Like GIMP is an image editor, and Blender is a 3D editor, and MakeHuman makes 3D people models, and he uses those in his college life, so he doesn't have to add on to already the huge cost of going to college. Kids can make money a lot of ways. These are the main categories I put together: business, game design, education, video and audio editing, programming, and engineering. Some ways that kids are making their own businesses are using Bitcoin. Bitcoin is really efficient because it doesn't have an age limit like PayPal. Although PayPal recently lowered their age to 13, there might be even younger kids, like 12 or 8, who still want to start their own businesses. Some examples of these are Leanna Archer's Leanna Inc. Leanna Archer is a kid who makes hair products from her grandmother's recipes, and she gets money from Bitcoin. Robert Nay's Games. Robert Nay makes a lot of games and puts them on the App Store. About 3 years ago, his game reached the top 10 in the iTunes store, and he gets money from it in PayPal and Bitcoin since he's old enough now. And lastly is Lizzie Marie Cuisine. Lizzie Marie doesn't use Bitcoin, but she helps use a part-time. She rents out space so she can have a restaurant of her own. Education. Like I said earlier, more schools are starting to adapt more programs or put more open source into their schools. Some examples I found online, they're not really education, but they help kids learn stuff, which is some I found out, which is Tux for Kids and Code.org's Hour of Code, DevOx for Kids, and Code Combat. So Bitcoin has a bigger platform for other kids who are making money. These kids, not only are they selling stuff, but they're investing stocks into Bitcoin so if Bitcoin prices raise up, they get more money in return. The Bees brothers, they're famous for selling bee online and getting money from it through Bitcoin. They've made almost $100,000 from their honey. The Sabra sisters, they write books and then they put it on Bitcoin. I recommend that you get their book. I don't remember the title of it right now, but it's really informative and it gives you a lot of insight on how kids can use Bitcoin. CoolMatt30, which is a Bitcoin user, he and his dad have bought a lot of stocks since when he was a kid. His dad bought him an Apple stock, but he wasn't really happy at how the prices kept going down, so he bought stocks in Bitcoin, and now he almost has $1 million in Bitcoin stock that he can cash in when he's 18 years old. Barty Harborough is another person who's bought a lot of Bitcoin stocks. He has almost $5,000 from Bitcoin stocks. The Bitcoinettes, they are a group of 13, 12, and 15-year-olds, and they sell stuff and sell it through Bitcoin. Like they make rubber band bracelets and a whole bunch of other stuff. And since they're all opened up for PayPal, now they accept PayPal and Bitcoin. And Plasma Tech is another kid who accepts Bitcoin and uses Bitcoin stocks. Now, when I was doing my research for open source alternatives, I found a lot of really cool open source alternatives, especially looking through source boards. There's a lot of cool ones. Here's some cool ones I stumbled across that I thought you guys might find interesting. This is Celestia. Celestia is an open source space simulator, and it's used for astronomy or astronomy students. It's available on Windows, Linux, and Mac OS. I thought this was really interesting because not only can Celestia go outside of Earth, it can see beyond the whole solar system. It can see asteroids, rocks, and way more than that. LMMS is a new and upcoming audio editing mixing program. It's not a normal audio editing program because it's meant for DJs, so it makes high frequency beats, and it's getting more popular within the open source community. JetOx. JetOx is a new business intelligence self-service analytics and performance management system. I thought this was really awesome because it's artificial intelligence and it's open source. I mean, how much better can it get than that? And now it has 100,000 users worldwide. And another cool thing I thought was it has a lot of client libraries in C++, Java, .NET, and PHP. D2 Evolution is, you can kind of compare it to Adobe Dreamweaver or Microsoft Web Matrix. It makes it easier for people who have websites and blogs and people who have businesses who want to manage all their media at once. It's B2 Evolution. It's not that popular, but it's upcoming, and it has lots of updates, monthly updates, which I thought was pretty cool because it's very accurate. And it has compatibility for WordPress, Blogger, a lot of really popular blogging sites. Like I said earlier, open source runs off donations. There's nothing else that could help open source and all of its components give back to the community. So I thought I'd just put this link here so you guys can donate to the open source initiative. They're actually here at scale, and they help give back. You can contact me at kpkeila2, which is my email, or you can donate to my Bitcoin. And if you email it to me, I couldn't actually get the QR code to fit on the presentation, but if you email me, I can send you a link and you can donate to me. And also be sure to check out osalt.com, which is a really good website for checking out open source alternatives. And that's my presentation. Do I have any questions or example businesses? Yes.
What did you use for your presentation?
Oh, I use Prezi, and it's not open source, but it's free because, well, you have to use a license. Like if you want to get the watermark off of it, it's not actually showing right. Oh, it actually is showing over there, but it's free to use, and it has a lot of different templates. And I think it's really cool because the animation it makes outside. I've been using it. Yeah, and I've been using it for 3 years now, and I think it's really, really cool. You should use it. Yes.
What's the open source package that you use the most?
I'd probably say GIMP because I use like a lot of miniature businesses. Like in 5th grade, I had this business where I designed people's like notebook covers. So like I play The Sims 3, so I make a sim that kind of looks like them, and I put it on the cover, and then I put their name on it, and then it paid me a couple of dollars just to make that. And a couple of other businesses, I just use GIMP because it's really convenient. And next I use OpenOffice the most, but usually GIMP because it's really easy and it's convenient. Yes.
Would you trust Mac computer do open source, or would you rather use Windows or Linux?
Well, right now I use Linux because of the game support it has because I play a lot of official games. But I trust Mac because it does have a lot of support and compatibility. But if you really want to use a lot of open source, I say use Linux because it has the most support and compatibility. Anyone else? Anybody have any businesses or example businesses? Or any dreams, aspirations? Nobody? Okay, well, thank you for coming to my presentation.
All right. Thanks again for coming, and be sure to look on the back of your name tag where you can go and see the code for your speaker survey, as she deserves a very high rates on the survey. So go on there and give it your highest regard if you can. Thanks again for coming.